So if you're focused on anything else but conversations, appointments, and sales,
Yep.
pull your head out of your ass, get real about your business, and understand that if you're not going to sell homes now, especially in the Northeast, you're not going to be able to catch up in like August and September. You've got to get real with where the market is. If you're not getting educated about local and national real estate news, market conditions, new industry policies coming from gigantic portals that are the most searched real estate term on the web, you're doing yourself and your client base a disservice. This is the Knowledge Brokers Podcast. I'm Tom Toole, here with the one and only Lisa Chinatti. Byron is probably 5 cigars deep right now in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and that's okay. Everyone deserves a vacation. We miss him. Lisa, we got a big show today. It's jam-packed full of information. We've got the Zillow clear cooperation statement fallout. We're going to hit on that first. We saw rates dip down a little bit this week. We've got a new home price expectation survey from Fannie Mae, seller expectations, and a titanic debate by 2 industry experts, Ivy Zellman and Logan Mohtashami. We'll cover it all here. So if you like what you hear, do us a favor, subscribe to the channel. Lisa, let's start with Zillow. Now, Lisa is very plugged in over there. And we know last week that that Zillow, Lisa, did you do this? I think I screwed that up there. We know Zillow came out and they had this titanic statement that we're going to ban any listing that's not publicly marketed on the MLS. They're going to ban it from their portal for the lifetime of the listing, meaning they could potentially fire the listing agent, hire somebody new. And there was all this fallout. We saw EXP and Redfin side with Zillow. No surprise there. EXP had a very interesting document that came out we'll talk about in a second. Andy Florance, Lisa sends me this email on Saturday. This is what we do on the weekends. Andy Florance sends this email out and goes ballistic on Zillow, takes a huge dump all over their decision. We'll talk about that in a second. Lisa, what do you think about all this fallout here? I mean, there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of people throwing their weight around. Lay it on us here. You're the portal queen. You know all about the portals.
Well, it's super interesting. I think, you know what? Speaking of all the portals, what I find fascinating is Realtor.com, and I love them. They've been super silent. They haven't come out on either side yet, which I find really, really interesting. And we know they're going to come out with something at some point, right? So it'll be fun to see where Realtor.com falls in all of this. With Zillow's, I've been really reflecting on it. So when we chatted about it last week, it was super new.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're going to stick with the policy, but I think we're going to see some stuff loosen up. So the way that the policy is written, we discussed it last week, something as simple as putting a sign in the ground is going to exclude that listing from appearing on Zillow. And I think where Redfin went is they pretty much said, we're adopting Zillow's policies, which would imply the same exact thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone's ever going to be able to police that. And I think it would open up Pandora's box in a whole bunch of different ways that I don't see either one of those companies getting involved in. So I think that they're going to keep it. I think it's going to soften a little bit and become a little bit more consumer agent friendly. Homes had a super interesting take on it. And the rhetoric in the email was the part that I loved the most. Because when you read it, it was clear that they were speaking to the consumer in a different voice. And so I don't think Homes is going to win this one. If you want my honest take, I don't think there's any chance. I don't think they've got enough of the land or market share with agents or consumers to have any real impact on what they say. The fact that Redfin and EXP followed, I think clear EXP was making the play against Compass and their Compass exclusives. But like I said, here's the other side of it. But you know what? I think it was a big nothing burger. I don't think
I totally agree with you.
Okay.
This thing is like, of course Zillow wants to do this. Their whole business model is marketing listings. So of course they want everything on there. If you look at the Bright MLS report that comes out, and Bright's the second largest MLS that's out there. So it services a large area. You got DC, Philly, Jersey, Baltimore, Maryland, Delaware. 90% plus of listings that are these exclusives end up coming to the market. And this to me is something where, as a listing agent, for the knowledge brokers out there listening, and this is the kind of stuff Lisa and I are going to be doing something very cool around in a little bit. We'll talk about that after we break this segment up here. You've got to know what you're competing against, right? I mean, if you go into the pre-qualification scripts that are out there before a listing appointment, you know, one of the questions is, Lisa, hey, are you interviewing any other agents? Great. Hey, just out of curiosity, who are they? I ask this all the time. I would ask this constantly because I want to know who I'm competing against. And if someone says, hey, I'm interviewing against a Compass agent, let's just pick on them because they've been leading the charge. You've got to know how to combat the private exclusive because it sounds cool. Private exclusive, like, ooh, people want what they can't have.
Yep.
There's not a big benefit for home sellers here. In fact, the Bright MLS research report on private exclusives says that it takes more time for these private exclusives to sell, not less. Pricing is negligible and usually negative when they're sold off MLS. There's plenty of case studies around that. So I think Andy Florance, he just wanted to come out and take a shot at Zillow because he does not like Zillow. He wanted to say something about him. Here's some of the comments. This isn't about protecting consumers. It's about protecting Zillow's ability to profit from your listings by selling your leads to competing agents. And then he, and this whole your lead thing, your leads are other people's leads. Let's be very clear. Just because it's your listing, Lisa, doesn't mean they're not talking to another agent. Like this ownership of leads, when you're looking at who else are they talking to, well, they would have called the listing agent if they wanted to. You can see that information there. Buyers go to Zillow because they want information about the house. They're not interested in calling the listing agent. Maybe they don't want to call the listing agent, right? There's reasons not to do that. That's why dual agency exists. People forget all this stuff. So then he argues about Zillow and that the policy threatens agent autonomy and seller choice. And he writes that Zillow is asserting that they, not NAR, not your brokerage, not you, the listing agent, and not even the homeowner whose house it is and is paying the commission, should decide how a listing is marketed. I think that's a fair point about the seller because the seller is the homeowner here. But besides that, I mean, I can't imagine a seller is going to be like, hey, you know what? I don't want all the extra exposure unless there's a privacy issue, they're a celebrity, they're a well-known person in their community. And even those homes often come to the market like anything else. So, I mean, I do agree. It's a big nothing burger here. And you're going to see a lot of people playing sides and picking sides. I don't know that that's a good business decision.
No, I definitely don't think it is. And, the reality is for those that choose not to go on the market, well, the majority won't sell. Like I said, I think what we're going to find is that it's going to be in this middle ground where there's going to be, are they really going to get that nitpicky over a sign in the ground? My gut says no, and they back down on some of it. But do you go full on market it in a brokerage specific or agent specific kind of way and get it public? I mean, I think if the consumer is keeping it private for privacy reasons, that means don't put it on any of their website and really fully advertise it, right? And you're either in for the marketing or you're out for the marketing. What I don't want to see come out of this, and where I think we run the risk as an industry, is in situations where a consumer needs to sell, right? And where I think about these are some situations, and everybody listening will know what I'm talking about. You are dealing with a seller who's got some mental health issues, mainly like hoarding is one of the big ones, right? Whether it's stuff or animals or whatever. Yeah. And they're really, truly embarrassed to put their home on the market. And all of us as agents, I say it, and sometimes I do, I work with developers who are sometimes a really good buyer for that property, right?
Yeah,
but
we've all been there.
Totally. But what I fear is that what can happen if this rule goes a little bit too far on that is that we actually handicap those sellers that we're trying to protect, right? Because if I then can't find the developer or the buyer who's going to buy it in my network and the seller can't get that full exposure that they need, we're going to force those consumers back to, and this is going to sound harsh, but they're kind of those predatory buyers, right? The I buy ugly houses people that buy at such a steep discount that you and I know that that's not truly in the best interest of the seller. And that if we then ultimately put that listing on market, we could find that buyer and get that seller more money. And that's the one thing that I don't want to see come out of this, is that we handicap those that we're trying to protect.
So I agree with you totally. And what we've talked about all along on the pod here is giving people options. And what kind of sweater do you have on there? Is that like a
You like
thriller?
that?
Like, look, what is that? Oh my goodness.
It's my friendly unicorn side. It's like, you can't like do anything but be like, wow, that's fun. And like, you're so approachable, but not huggable.
Interesting. I'm not a big like hugger as it is. So I mean, I would just, that's fine. I saw this flash of color here on the screen. It was shocking.
know.
And Lisa's, it's very, very Easter friendly. Good for this time of year. A lot of nice colors there. So totally lost my train of thought. So what we're talking about here is benefiting these sellers. And you're absolutely right, because we've all seen this happen. You talk about predatory buyers. I mean, that's the people you need to be aware. Wholesalers in general. I mean, it's
correct.
It's a nasty business. It's not great. Oh my goodness. Lisa was in Back to the Future 3. That's incredible work, Bobby.
That's epic.
Marty McFly. Don't call me a chicken.
Oh my gosh, I can see the similarity. It's amazing. That's awesome.
Very
well
similar.
done.
Yes.
Well
nice
done.
job. So, and I think there's, you want to have the data. I'm talking about this Bright report, right? That's great for me to use and for anyone in Bright because it's so local. And it's actually one of the things Logan Mohtashami and Ivy Zellman talked about in their big debate, that you've got to know the local data as well as the national data and explain how your market comes into play. So if you don't know that data, then you can't really advise people. And that's where you can also advise them against this. Like, I mean, there's some sellers there, they need to move quickly. A private exclusive is not going to be the option for them. So its choice is really what homeowners should have. I don't believe anyone should tell a homeowner how to sell their home. And agents are going to get tied up in this. I mean, I'm in Facebook groups. I know you're in Facebook groups. The debate about this is insanity. And these messages that people type, I look at them, I just stop reading them. But they're so long. They're bigger than my screen. And I mean, just think how long it takes to type that. So what I want to do, I want to go to a clip here from friend of the show, friend of BAM, Sharran Srivatsaa. He had a great breakdown on this. Bobby, if you could pull the Instagram reel up, I sent it to you in Slack. I'd love to all the agents out there to hear this, because you don't want to get involved in defending. I mean, this is no different than the NAR settlement. We're going to play this in a second, where there's people I know in my market. They're saying, well, NAR is not, they didn't do right by everybody. Well, anyone could agree to that, but I'm like, what are you going to do? Start another association? I mean, that's just a waste of time. So play the clip here, Bobby. We want to hear this from Sharran.
So Andy Florance, the CEO of CoStar, is arguably the most powerful man in North American real estate. Owner of CoStar, Homes.com, Apartments.com, and the most valuable business to date in the real estate space. Threw down the gauntlet after Zillow's new listing rule came out last week. So if you have not been following this, let me break it down for you very quickly. The spotlight has been on clear cooperation. And several brokerages led by Compass actually created this idea that they wanted to repeal the big idea of clear cooperation so that they could have a private exclusive network and under the narrative that clients will have their choice of how they want to market their property. Number one. NAR came out recently and said they were going to allow for a pre-marketing type idea and delayed syndication to this process overall, and that boards and MLSs are going to think about it and adapt it over the next few months. Third, Zillow came out last week and said if anyone were to utilize this pre-marketing idea and not put their listing on the MLS, as and when it did come on the MLS, it would never get shown on Zillow, which is an insanely bold move by Zillow. And number four, this weekend, Andy Florance says, hey, Zillow, you're throwing your weight around. You shouldn't do that, especially when NAR has created this delayed IDX syndication that for the industry's policy overall. Now, all I want to caution you with is that we are in the battle of the business models. If some brokerages want to do this because they want to create a private listing infrastructure to actually attract agents, eke out revenue, and that is a part of their business model. The portals, whoever they are, what do they benefit from? They benefit from getting more eyeballs on their listings, more eyeballs on their site, so that they can sell leads to agents, whatever their business model is. So now you, as a operating real estate agent in today's market, you have a choice, and your choices are twofold. Number one, if you want to get involved in this fight, you can. You can get loud, you can get involved with NAR, and you can get involved in this fight all you want. Or number two, you can stay focused on helping your clients in this marketplace. Either is okay. But you have to make a choice, because otherwise this is insane noise and a distraction for you. So my question for you is, one, grab some popcorn and watch the battle of the business models. And two, make a choice on whether you're going to get involved or whether you're going to stay focused on your business, so that as and when new rules come out, you've always adapted, and you will adapt on this one too.
All right, Lisa, react.
No truer words. Legitimately, no truer words. And that's all there is to say. Stay focused. It's constantly changing one way or another. Instagram, I don't remember who I was watching. Somebody did a live video the other day about like the tariffs and stuff. And I knew you and I weren't going to talk about the tariffs. And my comment was, it just feels like 2020, like right when COVID hit. It was, the sky was falling. Life is going to be forever disrupted. We're not going to adapt. And you know what? Everybody was just fine. And then June 2022, I remember it like it was yesterday, sitting in a Tom Ferry event in Austin, Texas. Rates crossed 5%. And literally, Tom, they interrupted the conference. Oh my God, the sky is falling. You have to, you know what? Real estate went on, right? And the kicker is, it's the same thing has been true every single time. Stay out of the noise, focus on your business, connect with your clients, make the calls, have the conversations, build the relationships, and business keeps going.
It is April 16th when we're filming this. Filming this a couple days early, right? It's the middle of April. So if you're focused on anything else but conversations, appointments, and sales, pull your head out of your ass, get real about your business, and understand that if you're not going to sell homes now, especially in the Northeast, you're not going to be able to catch up in like August and September. You've got to get real with where the market is. Lisa, you're absolutely right. So is Sharran. And that's really what this podcast is all about. That's what the show's all about, is getting real with your business and understanding like, hey, this is not the time to be doing all these different things. It's the focus is on just do the work, talk to people, figure out who's motivated. And if you know how to run an appointment and how the sale works, and you can understand the economy and the market, good things are going to happen to you when you focus on educating, not defending tariffs or the clear cooperation policy or something else. So great point there. Big nothing burger. I love that you said that, because this is getting all the headlines, and I think this is the most meaningless conversation right now. And you're right about the policing. You know who's going to police this? Other agents who aren't focused on their business. They're going to file the most complaints.
Well, that's my point. Yeah, exactly. And we're all just going to end up in like some nonsense back and forth about like, it's just not worth it. It's really, truly, we all fight about enough. And I could go on a whole other tangent about fighting with each other in the industry and whatnot, but I'm going to stay off that tangent.
Well, you got to keep the main thing, Lisa. And in this business, it's very easy to identify your core competency. It's selling houses. That's what everyone should be focused on. So with that in mind, we're going to move on here. And you've scaled a big business. I've scaled a not quite as big business, but also a big business. I mean, how many homes have you guys sold the past 3 years, just to give some perspective?
Oh gosh, the past 3 years. So that would be 21, 22, 23, 24. I don't know, 2,500, between 2,500 and 3,000.
All right, 2,500 and 3,000. So over the past 3 years, we've sold over 1,500 homes. So, I mean, these are, some people never sell this amount of homes in their entire career, and they're in the business 40 years. So these are big numbers. And the reason we're talking about that is we've got this workshop coming up that we'll put the link to register in the notes here. It's at Lisa's office, right? Lisa's office is all business. It's a very intimidating place to go to, because you got to show up there ready to work. I'm all kidding. They shoot like confetti cannons at each other and stuff. We don't do that here. And we do dress a lot more professionally at our office than Lisa does, and that's all okay. But the point is, Byron, myself, Lisa will be there, and we are running a behind-the-scenes event. So if you're a team leader, you're an agent that wants to just grow your business and see how to sell more houses, or you want to grow your operation. Maybe you want to hire like your first or second assistant. Maybe you want to bring on an agent or two, or maybe you just want to figure out how to get your systems in the right order, and you've got a lot of people, but your systems aren't great and they're not producing at the level that you want. We're running an exclusive workshop. What's the date, Lisa? You have it in your count. I think it's the middle of May.
Yeah. So May 15th will be the workshop at my office from 9 to 5. So that's like one part, super excited and cool. And then the second part, which I actually, if I'm honest, I'm a little bit more excited about, is on Friday, the day after, from 9 to 12. We're going to open up the office here, and each of our departments and the head of each department is going to go a little bit deeper into the one-off. So whether it's inside sales, recruiting, sales management, and agent accountability, the finance component of stuff, whatever it is, it's all going to be totally open so that everybody can ask questions and dig a little bit deeper on topics that might be super, super relevant or impactful for them, or just maybe something that you're looking to add to your business in the next 12 months or so.
Yeah, and this is not one of these like theory, do as I say, not as I do workshops. These are people. I mean, I've only had one job my entire life after I got out of college. This is all I've ever done. And this is tactical frameworks that can help you sell more houses, that can help you scale, that can help you build a real business. Because let's face it, a lot of real estate agents don't have a real business. They're just real estate agents running their own practice, kind of like an accountant or an attorney. So we've all got, 50 plus agents, and we're going to show you exactly what we did to build and also tell you all the mistakes we made along the way. And believe me, there is a
Yes.
ton of them. And we're going to help you get down the road a lot faster, or just sell more houses and see what it's like. And if it's for you to build a team, that may not be what you want to do, but you can see what it's like behind the scenes. So it's Thursday, May 15th, the Shadow Day on May 16th. It's in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, Chinatti headquarters. Check it out. And we're going to show you all the stuff we do on a daily basis. And it should be able to help you. And these are real guidance from people that have actually done the business and scaled these teams. So very exciting there.
And a super intimate group, which I think is super important to add as well. So it'll be it's not going to be 100 people where it's going to be us talking all day, which I think is really fun. And I guess that's the other side of it, is I plan to make it really fun for all of us, but where everyone will be able to ask questions and get super granular on their own individual business. So yeah, I'm excited.
What's fun for me, Lisa? Making prospecting calls, setting appointments, and selling houses. So we'll talk about that too. And even, we've built a listing division, stuff like that, where, you don't see a lot of teams doing these things, and how to really give training around that. Cause that's the hardest skill that most teams are they're very buyer heavy. So that's all stuff we're working on. Byron's got his marketing mind there, all sorts of great stuff. May 15th, be there or be square. So we've got the Zillow stuff. We talked about that. We've also got a little movement in rates. We saw the home price expectation survey come out from Fannie Mae and the Q1 panelist average for annual home price growth. So if you're nervous about tariffs, or you got people that are nervous about tariffs, I'd be sharing this number with them, that people are expecting home price growth is going to be 3.3% nationally year over year. That's about what I thought it would be. I don't think that's any earth-shattering news. We saw rates come down a little bit to around 6.8. The market's calmed down a little bit. What are you seeing in the market right now, Lisa, as we head into kind of like a slower, week of the year? It's like spring break, you got Easter, and then things should ramp back up. Anything here you're having your agents like educate clients about right now? Because remember, we're trying to learn how to talk to people with data, not just tell them, hey, it's a great time to buy or it's a great time to sell.
Yep. I love that question. So absolutely. I mean, the kicker is, right, despite the pessimism that may exist in the market, when you look at the expectations, everything is still in a super positive trend, right? So that's really kind of cool to look at and to help clients understand. I think the other side of it is we didn't choose this article to chat about today, but looking at inventory, right? The inventory still exists. It's there for those who want to take advantage of it. In our market up here, we're seeing a slight increase in inventory. And in places where historically we would have seen 20 or 30 offers, we're down to 5 to 10 offers. And in some pockets, like the city of Lowell, we're actually in not a multiple offer situation. We're actually kind of normalizing out at about 30 days on market, which is super fascinating to see. But for me, that means opportunity, right? Like for me, that really means that there's opportunity out there for buyers who are willing to take a little bit of risk. And I know I said it earlier in the show, but I'm thinking back to, remember 2020, Tom, when COVID hit and all of a sudden there was that dip. Everybody got a little bit nervous and they were like, I'm not going to buy. I'm nervous about my job. What happened 6 months later? You couldn't buy a house if you tried.
Yeah.
Right. And my gut is that we're going to kind of see, not quite to the same demand because the situation is a little bit different, but I think there might be a small dip and then everyone's going to be right back. I don't think Easter is going to have a huge impact for us up here in Massachusetts. Like we're really just starting to feel the momentum of the spring market. The one thing I'm worried about is that it's going to be like the first weekend, like all year, that it hasn't been rainy and miserable. So I think more people are going to be outside enjoying the weather. But I just remain really optimistic. And I think everybody needs to be having those conversations.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I put out some information. We did a social post on this with BAM that this was on the 9th. So what, a week ago,
Mhm.
that the energy
Okay.
in the market right now feels just like it did during the COVID lockdown.
Ah, look at that.
Uh,
Okay.
right before we went on an unprecedented run in real estate. Could I be wrong? Maybe. I would bet that I'm not, by the way. I mean, if you want to give me some money line action on this, I'm putting that the fact that I'm wrong would be like, it'd be horrible odds. So Eric would probably bet on this
Mhm.
because he picks horrible bets. Could I be wrong? Maybe, but I'm doubling down. The outreach conversations and appointments you have right now are going to pay off 10x. And
Yep.
don't wait. And it's, everyone, if you're like getting ramped up after the market's already started to take off and you start to see the sales happen, you're too late, because we know
Yep.
we live in 90-day cycles in this business. And the stuff you did back in January and February, well, that's where you get a lot of the business from. And it's never the first call or the second call. Sometimes it is, of course. It's that like 18th call, the 6th call. We know what the stats are. I mean, there's a Harvard Business Review graphic. We put this in our onboarding presentation, Lisa, that talks about where like most sales reps stop is typically between 2 and 3, and all the conversion is 6+.
Yep.
So all you got to do is follow the data. This isn't anything you haven't heard from a million sales trainers or coaches or anybody else, but that's where the money's at. So, seeing these market statistics, I'd be looking at developing a couple OFQs when you're talking to folks. So, hey, I'm not sure if you saw, Lisa, inventory's up blank % in your market. How would more options impact your real estate plans? Hey, Lisa, I'm not sure if you saw, and this is more seller friendly, housing prices are up blank % in your market. How would these new peak prices affect your real estate plans over the next 6, 12, 18 months? It's very simple asking these questions. And that's where, studying the data daily, studying the weekly numbers, looking at these studies and surveys, they're going to go a long way. And if you get a buyer that was like on the fence and then rates drop back down, because we saw like 7% earlier in the week, they're back under 7 now. That's a great reason to call somebody. And you're not calling them saying, hey, are you ready to buy a house? It's, hey, I've got some valuable information for you. How would that impact your plans? Because I want to make sure you know what's going on. And that's the difference between the people that are winning in the market right now and then the agents bitching and complaining that it's a slow time or the market's difficult. And it is difficult right now. I think it's actually very challenging getting business done because there's less transactions than we're used to. So you got to, work a little harder and have a little more conversations.
Agreed. I agree with all of those things. I think legitimate points.
All right.
What
So
else you got?
Speaking of education,
Yep.
we forgot to talk about this EXP rollout of the advisory form.
Oh, right.
For
right,
sellers
right, yes.
considering a private listing. So this just happened today, after days after vowing to work with Zillow. And this comes with education. This is a good point here. Days after vowing to work with Zillow to uphold NAR's CCP, EXP rolled out a new seller advisory form. They love rolling out these forms. This is the second time they've done this.
CYA, my friend.
I find it's very interesting because they're a national company and there's very specific state laws. So I'm wondering the validity of some of these, but I'm not an attorney. I just know how it works, even from like Jersey to Pennsylvania. And they want to warn consumers of the risks that come with marketing a property outside of the MLS. So they call it the Seller Advisory, Risks of Limited Marketing Exposure. It's an open source form available to anybody in EXP Realty. And they include 4 sections on the drawbacks of limited buyer exposure, financial risk involved as a result of limited competition, the potential for longer days on market, and the negative impact of withholding listings from public portals. So I think it outlines all the risks for sure. What do you think about having a form someone signs for this? I mean, I think this is actually a pretty smart move in terms of winning the listing and being competitive, especially if you're interviewing against someone that's a private exclusive company. I think it's really smart. What's your reaction to this?
Agents, past clients don't exist. Unless, of course, you're retiring in 2025, then consider your clients in the past. But if you're building a business for the future, your clients are your clients. This is where Mosaic comes in, the client experience operating platform for you to manage the client experience. See, cupcakes are cute. It's a nice thing to do, but it won't keep a client tied to you for life. It's not going to bring the value to their home living, home ownership experience for years to come. CRMs work for lead generation, lead capture, and lead communication, while Mosaic helps you transform how you manage those relationships moving forward with the value that they actually need in their home ownership lifespan. So don't wait. Check out mosaic.io or find the link down below.
Well, first is CYA, right? Let's be real. There was obviously the CYA aspect of it for EXP. I think all of us need to be considering it, especially if you've got a consumer that is thinking about marketing off MLS. You know what's funny? MLS PIN here in Massachusetts requires that we actually have a seller sign. We've had this for years. Anytime we take
Bright's
a
had that as
listing-
well.
Okay. So, nothing different. And we do it every single time we sign a listing that isn't going in MLS right away or ever. So it's not new, it's not novel, but it's really fun to see it rolling out across the board. I think you're 100% correct. I think there were two aspects to this. One was CYA, right? Obviously, you want to make sure it's done. On a compliance side here, we can police our forms and what we have the agent sign, but we can't always necessarily police what gets submitted over to MLS PIN in those instances. And so I think the other side of it, you're very, very smart and very correct to say that it is a marketing strategy, right? And it is a way framed with your question, which other agents are you interviewing? And I like to add in the question, what's the most important thing to you, right? Whether it's in the agent
That
or
should be
in
the
the
first
sales
question.
process. Because when you tie that in, you just keep circling back to the things that we know get us to where we want to be on a sales perspective. So there's a lot of power in using that one form to sign a listing when you're up against a competing agent. And not only from that perspective, but think about all the agents that don't present any forms and don't educate consumers about all of the different options. And I just find even with stuff as simple as like agency disclosures, right? When I say, I'm sure every other agent has presented this form to you and asked you to sign this, and consumers are like, I've never seen that form before. Game changing.
It's shocking to me how many people just disregard these forms. And I like the move from EXP. It's not a surprise they came out with something. I think that, they've got a difficult model because they preach cloud-based brokerage all the time. But then you got these states you got to deal with, and the MLS rules are just drastically different that you got to handle as well. So I think it's a good move by EXP. I like it as another tool to win the listing. It's just like a non-exclusive buyer agency contract. That's a way to get in front of somebody and maybe win some business. Hey, I'm not looking for an exclusive commitment right now. Well, hey, can I tell you what makes me nervous about this private exclusive strategy that was talked about? And then you tell them, you give them all the data, you give them the reports. And don't just say the data. I would bring the printed report from your MLS if they have it. Like that just makes you so much more legit. I've emailed that to people before, and it's helped us win listings. So it's a winning strategy. And when you look at what sellers actually care about and what sellers want, well, what sellers want, and there's some data around this here, 81% of sellers right now, they feel like their home's going to sell for their asking price. So if there's doubt there of, and this is a survey that just came out from Realtor.com. So if that's what they think is going to happen, and then you present, hey, this data could affect you from getting that. That's 4 out of 5 we're talking about here. So you're going to run into this. If you're, hopefully, obviously you got to go on appointments, but you're going to see this the vast majority of the time. If you're saying, hey, this might negatively impact you, and that's what sellers are expecting right now, all of a sudden you might have a leg up in the interview process. So what other ways do you see this being used, or maybe other ways you can win a listing with these? Because there's two different strategies here. You got to pick one as a seller. And what I'm clear on is that whoever can make their case, hey, here's what's best for you, Mr. and Mrs. Chinatti, that's how it's going to work. So what other things should people be aware of here in these competitive listing situations?
It's a great question. I think one obviously comes down to seller expectations and pricing. I was doing some role play with our agents this morning, and we were talking about some of the stuff that shakes out with what happens when reality doesn't align with what the expectations were. And so it's not just where I'm kind of super focused with my guys right now is it's not just on winning the business, because how many times have we all seen an agent win the business? And you know what I've got right now? I've actually got one of these. The agent won the business and kept it for 21 days. And we just got called in and we now have the listing after 21 days on market. And you know what was super fascinating? The first listing agent is keeping the buy side of the business, but
Yeah, but they don't want them. Yeah.
she
Or
happily
her.
stepped out of the listing side and acquiesced to us who have stepped in with better pictures, better marketing, better pricing, better strategy. And so I think that you've got to know that 81% of sellers expect that and do a really good job future pacing through what the realities of the market might be. And that, I think, is one of the things that just gets overlooked a little bit too much, is everything that happens in that appointment dictates whether you get that listing to the closing table or whether I get that listing to the closing table.
You know, one of our core values is integrity, and it's not being honest. It's doing what you say you will when you say you will. And
Yep.
there are so many agents that will say anything in the listing appointment to get it signed. And I've made an entire career. I've literally built this team on the fact that I could go in and be the second agent hired and get the home sold. I mean, that's how, you know, we've met. That was one of my specialties. I'm still doing it.
Yep.
And if you look at that, that just is such an indictment on the industry, but it's also an opportunity for people that practice their appointment, have a clear listing schedule. It's not like a fly by the seat of their pants. Hey, maybe we'll do an open house this weekend, or maybe we'll shoot photos this day. We've got systems and processes, which is why you should come to the event in Boston, by the way. Like, it's systemized. Hey, this is how we launch our listings. This has helped us sell X amount of listings over the past 12 months, whatever your numbers are. And you have a clear process. You've got a system. It's easy to organize. It keeps your staff organized so they know what the workflow is going to be every week. And what that does, it creates predictable results. And how you build trust is by predictability and clarity, knowing when people are going to hear from you, and it's a reliable resource. So I think that's a really great point, Lisa. Like, 21 days, that's not even the median time on market in the greater Philadelphia area right now. So people, and you know, I don't think people get with listings, like, one misstep, one thing you say wrong can cost you the whole listing. I mean, even on the interview, like, just you say one thing and it like sticks. People remember funny stuff.
Yep.
That's why scripts and dialogues work.
Well, and the sad part for some agents in this scenario is, so when you work with a buyer, you've wasted time and you've wasted gas money driving around. When you're working with sellers, you've wasted probably the same amount of time, the same amount of gas, but you're also out the cost of your photos, your floor plans, your sign. You're out a whole bunch of actual legitimate money. And so I find it 10 times more important to be super clear about those expectations and selling truthfully to what you can and will do, just right at the very beginning.
Yeah, well, and I mean, that's what people want. I mean, you look at what seller expectations are. Most of the sellers' concerns, I mean, everyone wants a great price. I don't want to sit here and say pricing's not important, but they care about timing. They care about home prep. They care about, think about getting your home ready for the market. I don't know when the last time you sold the property was, but it's a pain in the butt. And you've got to acknowledge that. It is difficult getting a home ready for the market and then keeping it that way. So when you look at the seller expectation, and then you're presenting something that's contrary to that, that's backed up by facts and data, and it's got that third-party validation, all of a sudden you've piqued their interest. We just ran into this with a listing, and I was told, hey, we're going with a family friend. We had a relationship with them for years, and I knew who the person was, and I'll take an L. You're not going to get every listing. That's hard to overcome that. Well, guess what happened? Well, they started talking about, no, they didn't even make it to the market. They said, we were alarmed by some of the things we heard during the interview process. So they didn't actually hire him. They said, here's who we're going to go with. Well, we signed a listing contract up. They called.
Good for
we
you.
were on the phone. I mean, we're on like a video call the next day and talking about all the things they were concerned about. And we went through the presentation again, and I was able to get in there early. I met these people last year, right? And so now and I'm talking like end of the summer, and followed up. You know, they had some moving. And then what ended up happening was one thing got them concerned, and we had the data right on the tip of our fingers. And I knew all the homes that sold. Our team sold 2 of them. And the other one that sold, we sold it to 2 owners previously. So we had all the info, all the insight. And all of a sudden, these people are like, all right, you're organized. You got a plan. We like what we're hearing. And there was a system in place, because when it got real for them, because now they're moving and these folks are relocating out of the area, those alarm bells went off. So it's not just me winning the listing. It's someone else lost the listing, and I just made a good first impression.
I love that. You know what? It's super interesting. This is one of the things I know you and I have chatted about it. Byron and I have chatted about it, and I preach it all the time, is we're in a sales industry and we're in a sales business, right? And I think a lot of time, especially when we deal with our friends or family members, we lose sight of the fact that we're still fact that we're still in business and we're still salespeople, and we drop the exact things that won you that listing. It's your systems, it's your way that you operate, the way that everything is always handled the same. And it's so easy when you don't do it day in and day out and really think of it like any other sales industry. Like, would you ever show up and sell software and not be as completely prepped and know absolutely everything about the product? Never. That would never happen. Right. But it's so funny to me. It's so funny we don't treat real estate like that. Not enough.
Well, we do. A lot of other people don't, because
Fair.
I think,
Fair.
and I mean, I like lose my mind. I mean, I go on appointments with our team all the time, and we have a lot. That's the way we train listings. And there's sometimes the fellas show up. I'm like, yo, where's your tie? What did we talk about here? Like, yeah, and not everyone does that. I get it. That's how we do things, and it's worked out pretty well so far. So things like that. I mean, not sending out the pre-appointment video. I mean, that's a misstep. That's a miss. Not pre-qualifying the appointment. We're talking about knowing what you're walking into. Well, if you don't talk to them and you assume the sale, and you go up against someone like me or Lisa or Byron or some of these other great listing agents that are out there, you might get your ass kicked. I don't know what else to say. I mean, that's just how it is. So some of these other key takeaways here from sellers, and I thought this was pretty interesting. It's there was 4 key takeaways from this survey that Realtor.com put out, and I want to get your take on these, Lisa. Lean into seller confidence. So highlight recent sales and local demand trends to reinforce their optimism with facts. Offer pre-listing prep support. Most sellers already research and upgrade. Offer contractor referrals, checklist, value add, and that's a big one. Address the locked-in mindset, and that talks about affordability and math, and really, do they want to live there anymore or not? And using regional insights around local inventory, pricing trends, and buyer demand. Any other things that agents need to lean into on the listing and seller side that come to mind here, Lise?
Those are the big ones. It really, truly, I think. I'm not going to ask what you're doing. So
I'm scratching my nose. That's what you were asking. Oh, you called me in a pick? I'm afraid not, my friend. So
I think it's leaning into that stuff. It's knowing that stuff. Here's the key. It's all in the preparation, right? It's asking the right questions and knowing where to go. It's understanding some of the personality types, but truly what's important to each client is going to be a little bit different, but probably 95% of the time it's going to be one of those things.
So I agree
There's not
with
much
you
more
when you
to
talk
say.
about. Well, you talked about the prep, though, and I think there's something that agents need to realize is that we've got this 87% turnover every 5 years. So where were we 5 years ago?
Yeah.
We were in the COVID pandemic, right? So you take that out, and then a lot of people, it feels like yesterday. And when I see my kids, that's when I get the like my son is taller than my wife right now, and it's like, when did this happen? But anyway, so you look at that. A lot of agents, they got into the business, and people were like, oh, these homes are going to sell themselves. I don't need to do a lot of prep work, Lisa. And this market is a far cry from 2020 and 2021. It's more balanced, it's more nuanced, and it's more competitive when it comes to listings. There's more agents competing for less listings. So that preparation work, or the pre-work, what do you do before you show up? I mean, it's practicing your appointment. It's knowing your scripts. It's understanding, hey, these are the objections I'm going to forecast here, or I'm going to pre-qualify them and know what their objections are and have a really clear plan to help these folks work through them, because objections are just questions about doing business. They're concerns that exist. They're not actual, hey, I don't want to hire you. It's here's what's going through my head right now. That pre-work is so important. And so many folks, they take listings like such a lackadaisical approach. And to me, it's the hardest skill in real estate. I'm very passionate about it. I could not agree with you more.
One other thing that I want to tag on to this is that report. I think we just focused on a lot of how that report is leveraged in the listing appointment. I would encourage everybody listening to this to think about how they take the data in that report and leverage it into the messaging that they use when they market to potential
Love it.
sellers. I think that there's a lot of those same points where leveraged into, be it direct mail, be it social media ads, videos that you're running, Google pay-per-click, click words. I think that there's a lot of opportunity. People need to pay attention to that report and think not just about the appointment, but think bigger. How do you take all of that data and really, really use it?
Yeah, and that's where, the marketing side of this business is so important. Think about if you're direct mailing someone or you have an OFQ for sellers, like, hey, here's what's happened with pricing. That's a great way. I mean, there's the 6 different channels of communication, right? You got voice, text, email, direct mail, social, and in person. That's like events and stuff like that. So if you think about like email and direct mail specifically, how you start the letter or the email is going to be really important. Like you could talk about things like, hey, a lot of sellers are stressed out about this. Here's the numbers. I mean, and you got to workshop this stuff. I'm not going to spitball it here on the pod. That would be a disservice to everybody. But there's ways to lead with that stuff. And then you can, and you have great marketing minds. I mean, use some AI. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can develop these things. So
without a doubt.
Very, very fascinating. All right, Lisa, what else you got here?
Well, somewhat related, but somewhat unrelated, and a dig at Mr. Byron, who's got his toes in the sand and a cigar in his mouth. Do you know what's shaking out? I totally forgot. The night before the event in Boston. Celtics playoff game here in Boston.
I know who they're not playing. Your team, your town, your Philadelphia 76ers, but that's okay. That would have been amazing, but the Sixers suck ass this year, so hopefully next year.
So who's
Boston playing? Like, what are they? I have not been paying attention to the NBA.
It's too early to tell. So I don't know who they're playing.
To tell.
Yeah, it's that far out still. So we'll see.
Well, so they got to win their first series, though. You're assuming they're going to win here.
Of course I am.
What are they? The 2 seed?
I don't know. No.
See, can't wait for the Celtics. You don't know jack shit about what's going on here.
I just know it's fun to watch.
This is why Byron said you weren't a sports fan. This is actually demonstrating his point.
No, that's not true at all. I'm not a sports fanatic. I am, however, a sports fan.
Okay. You got to know about your team. All right. That's what we got this week, everybody. Hey, major opportunity to get behind the scenes in Boston. May 15th. Apparently, Lisa's taking everyone to the Celtics playoff game. Is that what I heard? Is this your commitment now? I mean, I think you're making a bold statement here.
That is bold.
More importantly, get in the office where it happens, because I think a lot of people, I don't know about you. We've been to some offices like Zillow headquarters. We've seen Tom Ferry's office, obviously. We've seen, I think at one point, Team Plus went to like Zappos headquarters, like the coaching, or so big businesses, right?
Yeah.
When you go behind and look at these businesses, I think it's going to change your perspective on what actually happens. I think people expect to see this magical thing. And what ends up happening is they see people working really hard and executing and understanding that it's a little easier to get there than you might think. You just need to understand what you need to be doing on a day-to-day basis. That would be my advice.
One of the things that I did, I was doing it before COVID in 2019 and then in the lead up in 2020. And it was right as I was really building my business. You were one. I traveled. I took 1 week a month and I traveled to a different real estate company across the country. And I would say to the team leader or the broker, I'd say, I'd love to just come and I just want to sit in the back of the room. You don't need to talk to me. You don't need to entertain me. I'm not going to ask you any questions. I just want to watch and I want to listen and I want to see what's happening and steal all of your great stuff and bring it back to my business. And that was one of the most impactful things that I ever did. I remember coming to your office. I don't know if you remember it, but I rember coming to your office.
I was there. What do you think? I was like time traveling or something? We were there. Of course I was there.
But I visited so many amazing folks and really just learned so much just by I'd say beforehand, as I was figuring out who to go to, I would always know, I am trying to pick somebody who has this superpower, right? And it would be something where it wasn't my superpower and really what I thought of as a big area of opportunity in my business. And just being able to watch how that magic shook out just inspired me so much to bring things back here. So it's fun. That's my favorite part.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that, and I mean, you're talking about folks like Alex Hermosi, or I mean, like people that scale massively, and they talk
Yep.
about getting in the right rooms, or at least looking at a model that's already working and just copying the model and making it going to work for you. Because I mean, people may think the three of us, including Byron, our businesses, although we talk all the time, they're drastically different in a lot of areas. And that while they're very similar in a lot of areas as well, there's things that I know you and Byron do that I would never do, and vice versa. I mean, that's just how it is. And you've got to look at, one, what's your superpower? How can you lean into that and try to do more of that? And that's something on this, when we made the hot dog purse bet and all that, I think I learned a lot from, and I'm getting back to what I'm best at. And it's our business is taken off because I'm able to use that skill to its fullest extent. And then, hey, where are the skills I need to hire for? And
Right.
or where's the gaps I need to plug? And sometimes you can outsource this stuff too. It's not just always about hiring. So that's the value of getting into a room like this, because you can see, hey, this person got here, and this is not how great we are, but I mean, there's very few people selling 500 plus homes a year. I mean, that's or 1,000 plus homes a year in the country. And I'm not talking about one of these teams where it's like a brokerage and they all report it as a team. I'm talking about a real team like Lisa has, like I have, like Byron has. And then, where do you fit into all that? Because maybe that's not for you, right? And that's where, anyone can come if they want to grow their business, because there's a lot of things you're going to learn from that. So be there on the 15th. Playoff tickets on Lisa. Should be fun. We're getting the club box, right? You're getting courtside. What are we doing here?
OMG. Okay. Time to end the pod.
Thank you so much for checking out this week's Knowledge Brokers podcast. If you want to take what we're doing here at BAM and use it in your own business, join us over at School. We just switched BAMX into the #1 education and community platform. Go to school.com/BAMX or hit the link in the description, school.com/BAMX. I'll see you in the community.